So what's your first recollection of those guys? When did you, what's your first memory of them coming into your...
I don't know what year it was, and I don't know where we was. I'm presuming it was somewhere in New York. But we'd just done a sound check, and I came out the back doors into like the parking lot, and across the way was this big chain link fence, and Dennis was stood there and Lois was stood there shouting Paul. And it was like, wow, what the fuck, who are these? Because they don't look like Mr. and Mrs. Conventional, do they? So I had to go across, and they had some records there that wanted signing. So it was like, yeah, come round, you know, can't get it through the chain link fence, come round. And that was the first time I'd met them. And it just kind of went from there, man. It was like, these cats are really strange, in a good way. And the more I got to speak to them that day, it was like, these aren't strange cats, these are really whacked out cats, in a really good way. And that night, me and Bez ended up going back to their house, and like, we had no idea what was going to be in that house. I would never have guessed in a million years what the house was going to be like. So Bez was going back to get some weed. I wasn't smoking weed in them days. I was on my own little trip. So I was fueled up. And we get back to their house, and it was just like, oh my, wow, what is this? I remember sitting in the living room, and there was a table and chairs with a tablecloth on, and plastic egg and bacon set out, ready for someone to eat. So we sat there, and we'd only been there 15, 20 minutes, and Bez had had this joint, and I'm thinking, God, I'm going under. I've got to get out of here. This is too surreal. And then I got a nudge off Bez saying, I've got to get out of here. I'm going under. It's like, what are they going to do with us, man? Chop us up and turn us into plastic or something and put us in a frame? It's like, oh. Anyway, we had to get out of there. And you know, as you come to your senses about 2 hours later, you realise it's actually what a fucking whacked out house that was, man. It was cool. It was really cool. One of the things I do remember is this Beatles set that Dennis had. And I think he said he had it from when he was like 14 or something. I'd love to see that again. So yeah, that's the day I met Dennis and Lois.
Yeah, I think they saw you in New York, and then they went to Boston. So they were basically showing up at every show, right?
Yeah.
And how soon were they showing up in Manchester? And you guys were like, what the fuck are you doing here?
I remember the first time they showed up in Manchester, we had no idea they was coming. I had no idea. And I'm doing a sound check. I think it was a big gig. I was doing the sound check, and I saw Dennis and Lois walking across the empty floor. It was like, what? How? What? Why? How? You know. So it was a complete shock, but it was great to see them there. You know, it just shows their love of music and a great city. You know, they love Manchester.
And then they would frequent Manchester, like...
Yeah.
It's like they're home away from home. Right?
Yeah, they're always going to Manchester for various things.
And they just became that kind of a friend/fan, like, I mean...
Yeah, more of a friend than a fan, you know, more of a friend than a fan. I was kind of... It was great knowing that they got our music. They got it, you know, which I never thought would translate to an American audience, you know, but it did. But they was right on it early doors, you know, and it was like, cool, he gets it, they get it.
And then once you had learned that their background was kind of Ramones, and was that...
Yeah, it kind of started to make more sense once we, you know, they've been doing it for years. They haven't just woke up one morning and said, we'll go and watch bands. You know, it kind of made sense. Okay, yeah, they've been doing it for years, but the whole toy thing never made sense whatsoever.
So tell me, just bring me back to the I guess to the recording of the record. And like you said earlier, we had the songs, you had nothing had titles, and how that kind of came about.
Yeah, Pills and Thrills. We came over here to LA to record it in Capitol Studios, but we only came with 2.5 songs. One of them was Kinky Afro, can't remember the other. So we're in the studio writing every day, you know, and it's like, once you get a few songs going, it's like, let's do the new one. You know, that's okay on the first day because it's a new one, but on the third and fourth day, you've got like, let's do the new one that's not the new one, but the newest new one. And it started to get really confusing. So I called this piece of music Dennis and Lois, and which is probably about the 5th new one. And the name stuck. You know. It started off as the piece of music called Dennis and Lois. That must have just popped up in my head when we was writing the music. You know, they must have been swimming around there somewhere subconsciously. I think some of the lyrics are about the Cray twins boxing at the midget club. That's where they used to box, the Cray twins.
So tell me, like, since then, they've become just, I know that they're friends with your parents. Like, just give me a little, just tell me how they've remained in your life, and maybe why they've remained in your life. What just the kind of people they are, and just give me a little something about current day and your relationship still, and why, and just a little thing.
I lost contact with them for a few years, just because I was off in my own world somewhere. But they always phoned my parents up sporadically, kind of. And I think what made it more of staying in touch was their frequent visits to Manchester. You know, it's yeah, that made a big difference that they was flying over to Manchester. Kind of brought them closer.
Really quick, so I can throw this, so I can paint a picture of back in the day. What was it like for you guys coming to the States on that, maybe that Pills tour? What was your first tour of the States? Was it 90?
The first time was in '83 at the New Music Seminar.
Oh, 82. So that was a while.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, '83, '84. Yeah. And then after that, it was. I think we did some gigs around about the Bond time or the second album. We'd done, you know, a little, some on the West Coast, some on the East Coast, but never a big tour. So by the time we were doing a full-on tour, it was kind of like, we was full-on anyway. It was great.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't enjoy it? It was superb. My dad will know. Ask my dad. He knows what dates we was there, what time we went on, what we had at sound check. He knows everything.
Give me one like summary about just really what those two are about, like in your eyes, and maybe what makes them so kind of unique and special.
I think it's the love of music that they've got. You know, it doesn't have to be one type of music. You know, they've got a wide spectrum of bands that they're into. It's the love of music, and also the way they're collecting this future Americana kind of toy thing and other things that they collect. You know, it's somebody's got to do it. Why not them?
Someone said they collect people.
Parts of people. Yeah, they collect. The collection's great. It's great. It's just their love of music and live music as well. Live concert music. Keep music live.